Well, hi guys, we're here once again, and Nevyn Noni is with us, public access channel star. Uh, Say hi to the folks.
I hope you all die.
Cheers.
Somewhat kidding.
Now, it was interesting to me, you were talking about how even without a degree, you were so good at what you did that you were able to work your way up to project manager, do marketing, and then work for the city doing politics. And you have an interesting perspective. Now it's been 7 years and your non-disclosure agreement has passed. How you were able to actually manipulate public opinion for the city of Oregon using psychology and statistics, and then you're kind of shocked because people will quote your own words back to you, and you really saw how people were able to.
Yeah, it's I mean, I did do the work for the marketing industry with qualitative and quantitative analytics, and we worked for various cities, state, lotto, sorts of stuff.
Oregon Lotto.
Yeah, and worked for all the big companies, Microsoft, Intel, everyone. And basically, they would hire us to not so much figure out what people wanted, but to figure out how to make people buy and do what they wanted.
So like using statistics, but wording it in such a way so that it would win people over?
Well, finding basically how you can do whatever you want and the right way to say it so that people think that it's what they want.
Wow. You say it's deceptive?
I mean, how is it deceptive when it's right in front of your face and it's so obvious? I mean, it just is what it is. It's modern life.
And you said that sometimes you get into arguments with people and they would actually quote your own words back to you?
Yeah, there'd be people who they're so focused on statistics say this that they don't look at where the statistics come from, who paid for them, what their motives were. Because we have people come to us who specifically said, okay, I want to get to this result. So how do I get this result? And so, I mean, it got to points to where we would gather all the information, and if they were looking for us to come to a conclusion, we would come to whatever conclusion they wanted, and we would find a way to make the numbers support it. So I would have people come to me saying, like, these facts say this, and then I'd say, let me see where those came from, those numbers. And I would go like, yeah, either I did that or someone in my company did that, and I know exactly what we did and how I can give you 5 different conclusions from the same data set.
I think we can see that in the media with politicians and even like so-called climate change, so they're able to manipulate public opinion with that and say, science and the numbers say this. What always amazes me is how science isn't homogeneous. But when you talk to people, it's like they think that science is evolving and it's just one thing.
Yeah. And that's where people on any side, like liberal, conservative, whatever, really, really fuck it up because science says this. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. Well, actually, science says everything in between that. And especially when you're in theoretical science.
Well, like just take the intergovernmental panel for climate change. They say that this climate change is settled, there's this warming trends that are man-made, but they leave out geoengineering out of the equation.
Sure.
So,
and they also have no idea about the age of the Earth and everything. I mean, basically, sure, obviously they're trying to change stuff. But at the same time, obviously the Earth is also changing, and we just know so little. We're this tiny little blip, and we think we know everything. We're creating life in AI. I mean, kill humanity now.
And that gets into another subject that
come on,
we're live. We're live in the studio.
Live from Ecuador.
Overpopulation. You know, we've talked a bit about that. We have some distinct perspectives on this. I take it from the point that the Earth it can be sustainable, but there's people that are mismanaging it on purpose. Well, and if you look at a lot of the writings that are coming out of the most powerful people in the world, the most powerful NGOs and that sort of thing, they have as their reason for being the lowering of the population. I think that's why they put all this funding into groups that work to lower the population.
Why do they want to lower the population though?
Because less people is easier to control.
Yeah, no. All they're doing is they're shifting them into cities. That's how you control people. Because then they have no resources.
That's Agenda 21.
They're entirely reliant on communities.
That's so-called sustainable development.
And each one of those human lives, whether it's like a poor person or whatever, that's like a battery for them. I mean, why would they try and kill that off?
Well, they say they want to do it. Henry Kissinger, Bill Gates, types, Rockefeller.
I mean, I want to do it.
Okay, why?
Because humanity is a form of life, like animals, like plants, like all the millions and millions and billions of other types of life there are. And yet we are dominated. We're controlling how many kinds of this kind of life can exist in this area. We're controlling everything except for ourselves.
If we were going to control ourselves, the kind of draconian measures to lower the population could only be done by a world government acting in a non-democratic way.
And that's the catch, is that unfortunately humanity is not able to conceptualize true like justice and non-bias, and so humanity doesn't have the right to control itself. So
doesn't
that's
have
why
the right or the will.
I mean, no human has the omniscient view and the right to say you die and you live.
Do you think it's actually an altruistic thing not to have children?
Yeah. It's altruistic for our future and our world, yeah. And all forms of life. And the form of life on the planet. So it's up to individual decisions and people doing stuff now. And also terrorists and mass murderers.
You know, Dr. Ian Pianka at the University of Austin, I think, in Texas, he talked about wanting to make people sterile, make everybody sterile,
I'd like to be sterile.
And then give what?
I'd like to be sterile.
Yeah. And then giving people a pill that would turn off that mutation, if you will. So, but they would have to pay money to take that pill that would then allow them to
It's totally believable.
to have children.
It's totally believable.
He was actually talking to geneticists about this. And then I also think of John Holdren, who turned out to be Obama's economic advisor. He wrote a book in the 70s called Eco-Science. He co-wrote it with Paul Ehrlich. He wrote in this book, Eco-Science, that he imagined a situation where governments would put sterilization agents in water, have forced abortions, and pay people fines for having children. Hey, that ship sailed a long time ago. They're putting fluoride in the water. That's not sterilization agents. The way there's taxes and they make it so hard for families now, it's almost like they're fining people who want to have children. The forced abortions, though, the fact that scientists could say that and they get a job with the Obama administration, that just tells you how little clout the Obama administration should really have with people who care about human rights.
That's all politics. Everything can be boiled down, like even very politics' existence and the push-pull of liberal conservative itself boils down to way long time ago. People got control. People don't want to let go of control. People still in control, but not sitting there saying, hey, shoot me.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we're all bitches. We're all their bitches, and they're gonna fuck us however they want. Oops.
Yeah, that's the second time you said that.
I only noticed it the second time.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
Only for YouTube, not for public access. But just going back to politics, if you will, it's interesting too. Obama had an information minister named Cass Sunstein, who a couple years before he accepted the post as information czar, he wrote a policy paper where he called on alternative ideas to be banned. And he said that journalists that don't toe the line with the official government account of events should be jailed, fined, and have blips appear on their website.
You read 1984. It's not surprising.
Everything he talked about it has now come to pass in 2018, 2019. I link to Natural News now. There's a blip that comes up on the screen saying it's fake news. The World Health Organization is calling for journalists who don't agree with putting dead babies in vaccines. The World Health Organization is calling for them to be jailed. Journalists from all over the political spectrum have been kicked off of YouTube. And they planned this out during the Obama administration.
Well, and to bring it back to the marketing and what you're saying, to tie that in, is that it really is thought control. A lot of the stuff that we were doing in the marketing world was right before Cambridge Analytica and that kind of demographic assessment was a whole new way. So I was in Thailand a year and a half before Cambridge Analytica, and I said, "Oh shit, guys, we can." Sorry.
No,
oh shoot, guys!
The genie's out of the bottle.
We can finally actually take all the data and we can actually process it now, and we can process it pretty real time. So the thing that's happening with that is we're no longer going your age, your gender, your employment. I mean, we're working in everything: your shopping habits, your buying habits, your Facebook likes,
well,
your photos,
Walgreens is going to put hidden video cameras on their refrigerators to do facial recognition on the shoppers.
Well, it's all part of mapping the human mind and all its possible variances to make them less variant, because of course everybody's trying to make everything equal.
To be able to predict the future, because if they're feeding people's likes and
to make the future.
Supercomputers.
They're already predicting the future. Now they're making it. They're literally forming it.
They're making the future?
Yes.
Can you give us a for instance?
With the things you're talking about with climate change and whatnot, just the putting out facts for people to believe. And trying to present them as if this is the answer. And if you get enough people saying it, it's the echo chamber of that.
And they already know how people are going to react. That's the predicting the future. They know how people are going to react.
No, they're causing them. They're causing them how to react. They're like in the United States right now. They're causing strife and fighting because when people are fighting, they don't look up.
Yeah. Well, that's the Hegelian dialectic. You problem, reaction, solution. And if you want to bring in a solution, first you have to make a problem so that people can accept the solution that you already have pre-planned.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's like, well, we're lesser of evils. And when we keep choosing the lesser of evils,
So you told me that humans are cancer?
Cancer, virus, whatever. It's uncontrolled growth. It's eating everything else.
Yeah. See, I would say it's mismanagement that's eating it.
But see, you think this is happening like on the conscious level, and I'm like saying, yeah, it's happening on the conscious level, but it's happening from something way deeper than that. It's something about humanity. Like, for humanity to admit that it is the problem is not sustainable. I mean, that's a suicide path. But I mean, if you look around, all forms of life, our form of life, working together, crushing everything. Humanity's the problem. So die.
So what do you think of Ecuador? So far, so good?
That's great.
How's it compared to other Latin American countries you've been to?
Muy chido, a little more relaxed. Surprisingly more money, muy tranquilo. More money than other ones I've seen like Mexico, Colombia. Probably not as much as Argentina and Chile today.
Yeah. Years ago, I called my friend, because back in the day we used to do political activism together, Alex Ansary. He did a video about your farm for his YouTube channel. And you talked about how since the system's broken, you wanted to do permaculture, join with other farms, and hosting events and energy pushing, energy shifting.
But the laws don't want you to work together.
So, talk to us about how kind of the laws got involved and kept you from really expanding in the way that you wanted.
Just kind of, we had people camping in tents, and the county really freaked out over that.
How did they find out?
They saw everybody's cars in the driveway, and they sent a letter saying you can't have abandoned cars, and my father, the owner of the land, he decided to tell them, oh, those are working cars for our workers, and we have all this, and blah, 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 when we were obviously working some very gray areas. So they freaked out over the compost toilet, and people camping in tents, so we had to move people inside.
Do you think it's kind of a deindustrialization, anti-growth mindset that the government of Oregon has?
Well, the idea is that they want you to work in one way, and so it's very difficult when you're working in slightly
you can't even build houses.
The building laws are ridiculous.
You can't even build houses on your own land.
No, and technically it's illegal. There's only one type of cob-related structure that's at all legal, and that's the straw bale design. And that design is actually worse than like the cob. It's similar to here, but it's designed for the Pacific Northwest, and it's more stable. It's great. It's great for temperature control. It's energy efficient.
See, I would say,
but it's illegal.
I would say that the desire to lower the population is the same kind of anti-growth, deindustrialization mindset that you can see with like the building regulations.
Well, I think if anything, what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop the lowest of low classes from breeding like crazy because, well, they are, and that's why the population.
But why are there the low classes that can't?
Because of lack of sex education, lack of access.
Mismanagement, I would argue. See, I think all the evidence.